to be able to sit at the table and feel comfortable at the table with the likes of Brereton and Dunstall and Ayres and Platten is quite humbling.
Jordan Lewis.
To come out as a 4-time Premiership player and be really lucky in that sense, there's clearly more opportunities within football than there would be a 320-game player who might have been a best and fairest and an All-Australian at the same level.
How do clubs continue that success when you reach the pinnacle and it's like, what's next?
We've lost some used car salesmen. Do you mind sort of cutting your teeth selling used cars? I'm like, oh yeah.
That's what I always wanted to do.
I locked eyes with Bud. I'm like, just deny. So that was really trying to set up the culture.
I'm sure it was worth it.
Like anything in life, there were so many lessons to be learned.
The amazing part of a professional athlete's life is that your career ends so young, really, and you're thrust into this new world of business.
Yeah.
That must be quite daunting as well.
You could be a smart kid who goes into professional sport, as you say, do a degree, do an MBA, work one day a week at a firm somewhere, and you're coming out against the same sort of person who has had 15 years experience in that industry, and it's tough.
How do you want to be remembered?
Ooh.
Welcome back to another episode of That Backyard Property Pod. Today is a treat. I'm on tour. I've got an All-Australian, 4-time Premiership player, father, husband, wine connoisseur, Jordan Lewis. Welcome.
Not too sure what I like more. I'd have to say maybe a husband and father.
You have to. When it's being recorded, you have to.
Yes. No, thanks for having me on. I like the way you phrase that, on tour.
On tour.
Which is certainly what you're doing.
Absolutely. And mate, you got shorts on today. I nearly wore shorts, so it's nice to see people wearing shorts in Melbourne.
But it's a bit lazy. I don't know why. I'm surprised I don't have the. I've always frowned upon people wearing socks with those Birkenstocks that are sort of enclosed at the front. I usually do that. But I wasn't sure whether my feet were being showing. But I'm a shorts man. Grew up in Warrnambool, a coastal town that was bloody windy and cold. So I was acclimatised. Yeah.
Well, we're going to go into Warrnambool because I love talking about what a home means. We'll talk about the Hawks, entry education, media. But tell me, what does home mean to you?
I think it's one of those things that as you get older, you appreciate it more. Yeah. And my memories, and a lot of people's memories, I would think, from being a child are the fondest ones, because there's no stress, there's no real rhythm to your life. You are carefree, and to be honest, it was a time where we grew up with no social media and really no phones. So, the freedom which we had as a kid and the freedom which I had as a kid in Warrnambool, you could ride anywhere. You could, ride past your mate's house and you would see bikes out the front, so you knew your mates were there. If they weren't there, you'd go to the next house. And those at the time you don't realise or appreciate. But they were great memories. And when I go back home to Warrnambool now, I say home. I've been in Melbourne longer than I've been in Warrnambool. But I just drive around the streets, and you sort of the memories of the local kiosk that you used to, or milk bar you used to go to, the local footy ground. They are so nostalgic for me.
How do you go doing that trip with your sons? Do you go, hey, this is the kiosk or the dairy milk bar that I went to, like this is the oval that I used to kick at?
Yeah, I think as they get older, they are more interested, and I've been mindful of that. Down in Warrnambool, funnily enough, we used to clearly live in Warrnambool, but we used to holiday in Warrnambool, which sounds a bit funny, but we used to pack up the tent or borrow a caravan, drive over the hill to Surfside 2. There's Surfside 1 and Surfside 2, the two caravan parks that are on the ocean. And to be honest, you could have been anywhere in Australia on the ocean. Mum and Dad would go to work. 70% of the caravan park was full of Warrnambool people, so you never didn't know anyone. And once again, you get on your bike and you ride all day. You go to the beach. You do sort of stuff that it was just carefree. So I've shown the kids that. I've shown the kids where I was a big basketballer when I was a kid. I showed where you play basketball. But as they get older, they appreciate the wide open spaces that you don't necessarily get in Melbourne.
Yeah, it's funny being a parent now and looking back at your childhood memories and almost trying to recreate them for your own kids.
Yeah.
And I just don't know whether they're going to look back as fondly as what we do with our own childhood.
Yeah.
I just don't know.
Yeah, it's funny. Every school holiday, I used to, because we used to live in town, I used to go to my mate's dairy farm. And, we used to get up at 5, milk 4:35, milk the cows, jump on the motorbike, go shooting all day, come back, milk the cows. And that for me was just simplicity. It was really great. I don't know whether my kids would enjoy that now. But every Christmas when we go home, we spend Christmas at my cousin's farm. And that is probably my boys' greatest memory for the year. So I sort of like that they enjoy that and don't necessarily talk about the experiences that they might get in the city.
But now you're a businessman. You're in the media. You're a partner within the Entry Group, Entry Education. Talk to me. How did that come about?
It's interesting. I think my work life had been football for 15 years. I was always conscious of clearly life after football. You would exit the game at 33 or 34 like I did, and I think there's a level of trepidation because you come out of the game, financially okay with maybe an asset or a few assets, but in terms of cash flow, that certainly you certainly come out at a different level. Yeah. So I was conscious that stepping out of the game, I had to have something to go to pretty much straight away, and that was the media, and I don't think there's not too many opportunities that come up. So for probably 10 years prior to me exiting, I was just drip feeding myself into that, and it's something that not that I find easy, but I don't get overawed by the camera being on or what someone thinks of my opinion or anything like that. And I think you need sort of thick skin to be in the game.
It probably helps where your name comes up and it says 4-time Premiership player.
Yeah,
and then some of the other commentators' names come up and there's no Premiership listed. It's
interesting, isn't it? Because so the whole sell when I was playing, we'll probably get more deep into the playing days, but the whole sell was if you are successful as a team, not necessarily individual. Like I think if you went through, the really sort of fruitful, dominating times of the Hawthorn Football Club, there would be individuals that had individual accolades, but it wasn't the number one priority because when you exit the game, you understand that is great and it's great to have on your CV, but there's no connection to the team. There might be a little connection to the club. So the whole sell from Alistair Clarkson and the coaching staff was, hey, take a little bit less money, stay together for a period of time. We can't promise you, but you're more likely to have success doing that rather than jumping around or, Buddy Franklin asking for this much money, Luke Hodge asking for this much money, then there wasn't enough to go around. So the story and the sell panned out exactly how they imagined. So to come out as a 4-time Premiership player and be really lucky in that sense, there's clearly more opportunities within football than there would be a 320 game player who might have been a best and fairest and an All-Australian at the same level. That's nice. So yeah, that was the sell, and that's sort of how we got to that. So you finish football, and my in-laws were in car dealerships. So the plan was media weekends at night. So I had a lot of time during the week. So they said, come in and experience at car dealerships and potentially, get some equity into the business. So I did that. And the first role that I was going to do was a business development manager, which is, you come in, you buy a car, you either want to pay cash or finance. So I would organise the finance. Then COVID hit. And Sam, my brother-in-law, said, I know you were going into a BDM role, but we've lost some used car salesmen. Do you mind sort of cutting your teeth selling used cars? I'm like, oh yeah, no worries.
That's what I always wanted to do.
So that's what I always wanted to do. So then I went into that for probably 6 months, and it was interesting, right? Like it's a little bit like sales now. It's so repetitive, and I think that's the thing that I really struggled with. You get in at 8 or 8:30, you call your prospects, the same prospects you called the day before. They probably don't answer, and then you sit there and you wait for someone to come. It was an interesting time, and you get out there and you're bartering with someone over a $10,000 Corolla for $50. I'm like, do I really want to be doing this? So I came to the point where I was like, I want to get out. What do I like? I sort of liked commercial real estate. So I had a job lined up at CBRE. So doing that, you had to do a certain level of qualification. So I signed up with Entry Education, and I literally signed up. Within 15 minutes, I get a text from a mate, "Are you going into real estate?" I'm like, yeah, I've just signed up for my course. How do you know? He goes, "Oh, the company that you signed up with is Andy's company, who was a mutual friend of ours." I'm like, "Oh," he goes, "Oh, Andy wants to talk to you." So fast forward, I get a call from Andy. He's talked me into coming into Entry Group with equity into that, and I never made it to CBRE.
And you enjoying it?
Yeah, it's good. Do you know what? It's one of those things where the property industry is sort of like-minded people, right? Like it's relatively fast-paced. It's a lot of people either like their sport or their wine or all sorts of stuff, and it's one of those things where you're not nailed down to a desk. You can move around a lot. You meet different people. You meet people who are agents or CEOs so there's a variety of people which I like.
Yeah.
So it's been great. So through Entry Group, we've spun that off to do entry conveyancing, which has been great as well. So yeah, I've been there for 3 years.
Yeah.
The company's been around for 8 years.
And now into recruitment as well, is that?
Yeah. So it's fun. All these sort of little businesses have been spun off from Entry Education and really utilising the database that we've been able to build up over a period of time. So we always have officers coming to us because it's hard to identify good talent, right? So through the education side, you can identify good talent. You can identify talent of where they come from. So you can suggest that this might be a possible fit for the company. So it was just a natural thing to take up.
A bit of a distance away from being a car dealership.
Yeah, I know, right? It's and when I was in the car dealerships, it was through COVID, so that was a real boom, and it was crazy, to see the used car prices and what they were going for more than the new car prices because you couldn't get new cars in.
Yeah.
But it just taught me the road to a sale and how important structure is. And that I think that's good to a point, but I also think there needs to be some sort of flexibility to allow the person or the individual to show their own personality, which I thought that type of system didn't necessarily allow that.
Anyway, you tried it and it wasn't for you.
Yeah. And my in-laws have since sold out of it, so maybe I was never going to get equity anyway.
No, it doesn't sound like it. Entry education. It's one of those things where, especially in the broking industry, real estate, everyone needs to have ticked the box as well. So there's a need for it, and it's just providing that service to the businesses.
Yeah, and we're all about relationships. I think that's important in a service industry, to put a face to the business, but two, to put a relationship behind the business as well, because the service industry, a lot of the time is you pay us a fee, we give you the service and goodbye, which will happen at some stages. But I think all humans like that connectivity. They like more than what the service offers, and whether that be a lunch or an office visit or coffee or a tech, whatever it is. I think that's what we try and provide as much as we possibly can.
Yeah. Take me back, 2004. 18-year-old, ready to rock and roll into the AFL. Obviously, the draft and all of that, people have spoken about that till the cows come home. I'd love to know, you've walked into Hawthorn in 2005 and you go to Kokoda with the big boys.
Yeah.
As an 18-year-old. Was that eye-opening, or was that, I'm ready to do this?
Well, no, I certainly wasn't ready.
Yeah.
I didn't know where Kokoda was. I hadn't been overseas at all. Gold Coast was the longest trip that we did as a family. So I didn't have a pass. None of us had passports. I was 18. Buddy and Ruff were 17, so they had to get a kid's passport. I mean, the hardest thing that I ever did was more athletics. There wasn't a trek or a walk, and certainly wasn't a historical walk like we were about to embark on. So we had a week to get ready. From draft to then being flown out to Papua New Guinea. And I think looking back on that experience and talking to other draftees who went to football clubs and didn't have an overseas trip or a camp away, it took them a lot longer to build rapport within the playing group. And I think being overseas in an environment where no one had been to before, really, the senior players had let down their guard, and it wasn't as the environment wasn't as egotistical as what I would have imagined it would have been at the footy club. It's like, you're a rookie, you've come in, you've played no games, you just sit there and speak when spoken to.
Yeah.
I've got the best massage time because I've played 200 games. Like, all that sort of stuff is like, no, we're walking for 8 to 10 hours a day. And have you done it?
No.
Nah.
I'd love to.
Yeah, it's awesome. But you are either going like that or going like that. There is no flat. So you would walk 8 to 10 hours a day. You would always finish at the bottom of a hill because that's where the rivers were, so you could wash and clean up. And then,
how long does it take?
So it took us. So we did it in 5 days. Yeah. We could have done it a little bit quicker because we were lucky with the weather. There was no rain. It was fine. But we just had activities along the way where you had to carry bodies up the hill, had to carry logs up the hill. Certain things to slow us down, I think.
What an experience.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was hot. It was, you would camp at night, you would air your socks out, but by the time the morning came around, they were still soggy anyway. So you're putting on soggy socks, soggy clothes. But to get to the end, to walk 98 or 100 kilometres and to drink your first can of Coke at the end or have a sandwich, because the food you were on rations.
Yeah,
was something that you look back on and be really proud that you did it.
Yeah. And I think breaking down the barriers was key, especially in that generation.
Yeah,
there would have been some serious masculinity in the
absolutely
change rooms.
Yeah, and to change the course of the club. I think prior to us getting there, from conversations I've had with people, it wasn't a club that. They sort of loved the off-field stuff and the partying more so than the camaraderie and the teamwork and the leadership. So I think that was a real fork in the road where Alistair was obviously driving that. If you're not on, you can take off and go find other opportunities, which some guys did. But if we're coming down this way, it's a real chance to rebuild this club and bring it back up to the successful club that it had been in prior.
And that was his first year as well.
It was, yeah. So his first year, Damien Hardwick was an assistant coach. His first year, Andrew Russell, who was head of fitness, his first year. Todd Viney, who was another assistant coach, his first year. So there was a group of 5 or 6 coaches and fitness staff that was their first year. But also we had guys who were big backers of the football club come as well. They sold a corporate element to it. So the experience that they had as well, and to get to know them and to bond with them, I think was, something that was extra special as well.
And you've got sort of a couple of years there where you're a young whippersnapper. You've got a bunch of mates that have also come along the journey with you. How much fun was that in the lead up to the 2008 grand final?
Yeah, it was awesome. And I think it's a little bit like what I was talking about my childhood. When you come to Melbourne and you're playing AFL football, out on the ground, people would probably recognise you from the number that you've got. But because we were so young, no one recognised anyone. Bud got good around 2007, so that stuffed it for everyone, because we'd hang around Bud and he'd be the noticed one. They're like, you grouped in together. But it was so much fun. Once again, no social media. Our phones were out, so we had phones. I think camera phones might have just come in, sort of 2006, 2007, maybe a bit earlier. But that was my first camera phone. So you'd go and play. We had a 12 o'clock curfew because they were trying to instill discipline into the group. But once again, because we're unrecognisable, we could go out and go to some clubs where you weren't recognised and stay out past midnight. And there was a few times where we got caught. I remember one Sunday morning. So we used to play on a Saturday, and recovery was a Sunday morning around sort of like 9, 10 o'clock, which would then try and deter people from going out the night before, because when you're young, you can sort of back it up pretty quickly. Absolutely. You don't feel the hangovers like we do now. So we went out, we came down, we were at the Hawthorn pool, just walking laps, and Richie Vandenberg calls everybody in. He goes, all right, everyone in. So we all know there's a 12 o'clock curfew. Just want to give anyone a chance, if they were out last night, to put their hand up and I explained why, and I locked eyes with Bud. I'm like, don't, just deny. He goes, all right, no one. So then we kept walking. He goes, all right, everyone back in. I'm like, oh, fine. He goes, we know 2 guys were out last night. This is your chance to come clean. I'm like, no, we're not coming clean. Richie Van goes, Louis and Bud, you got anything to tell us? I'm like, oh. So then I can just see Bud like moving like right to the back and just sort of trying to hide. I'm like, yeah, no, we're done here. So we had to own up to it. And then the next morning, 5 a.m. down the beach. And it was in the middle of winter where the St Kilda Pier waves are crashing over the pier. And we would have had, I reckon in the first year, maybe 5 or 6 beach sessions, which I wonder whether they do now, but just for disciplinary reasons.
Yeah.
So that was really trying to set up the culture of where they are now.
I'm sure it was worth it.
Absolutely. Like at the time, you're going, like I think we had a beach session after a best and fairest one night. We had a poor year. It might have been 2009 or one of the years where Clarko and the coaching group were sort of fed up with the discipline. So after the best and fairest, we had a 6 o'clock beach session, which a few of us just went straight to it.
yeah. You're in your jeans. Yeah.
Just bring the backpack and away we go.
And then you move forward to 2008. And how old are you there? You must have been 22.
Was I?
21,
22. Yeah.
Yeah, and you achieve the ultimate success in AFL. Do you then go, that was easy? Or, because there's people that have been playing for years and have never achieved that success.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it's now upon you.
Yeah, I think there was a few things that really attributed to that. Like the zones you see right now, like that was Alistair Clarkson bringing that in, and it was a real surprise to everyone that year, and maybe really hard to overcome. So that was a big thing. We had, Stewie Dew had been recruited back from LA. He'd followed his girlfriend over there, so he was someone who had premiership success, came in and gave us some really good guidance. And I think once you get momentum through a season, and we played some really good football that year, and it just came down to a few moments in the finals where we were able to get over the line. But it was a game against Geelong. I reckon Hodgie had just had Cooper, his eldest son, and we were right in the game. Hodgie had the ball on the wing, tried to bring the ball back into the corridor, missed the kick, Geelong go down, score, game over. After that game, Alistair Clarkson said, I think we can win it this year. And he'd never said that to us. And we're always waiting for him to say that, to give us affirmation that what we're doing is right. So from that moment, we had great belief that we could challenge Geelong with the key team that year. And then in the grand final, it's just about taking your moments, right? And understanding the enormity of it and what was at stake. And I think the thing in the back of everybody's mind was, this could be Croft's last year. It was his first grand final, being a champion of the game. How good would it be to help him get up on that stage and salute?
How'd you play?
Funnily enough, because they don't weigh in now, but we used to weigh in every game. So prelim final, I was a bit heavier back then. I was 89.6, and grand final I was 86.3. So I was about 3.5 kilos lighter the week after in grand final, and I just thought I was nervous and didn't eat and all that sort of stuff. But then played the game, did okay, but nothing special. I was still young. Then the Sunday I'm at the Hawthorn pub and having a few beers, and I just started to sweat and shake, and I think I just came down with a bad case of the cold. So I was in bed for 2 weeks from that Sunday onwards. Yeah. So I didn't get to celebrate. Everyone went down to Tasmania. I missed a Europe trip with Ruffy and Stewie Dew. So the aftermath wasn't great for me. But they certainly celebrated, because 2009 we come back and there's not an extra person on our list in terms of physically, but all the fat from skin folds that everyone had put on, it meant that it looked like there was an extra person on our list. So we enjoyed ourselves, which meant we had a poor year.
I was about to say then that year wasn't that great, was it?
Poor year. Yeah. But it's like anything in life. Like if you reflect and honestly reflect on that time, there were so many lessons to be learnt. Yeah. To the point where, we win in 2013. So we do the stuff on the ground. Then we come back in and we get into the rooms, and the Premiership Cup's there, and Alistair Clarkson leaves the room and brings in another cabinet. He goes, all right, boys, 365 days to go. Like, we've just won the grand final, yet he's already telling us, hey, this, to get the next piece of silverware starts today.
Did you buy into it? Or was
Yeah,
it like,
you obviously go out and enjoy yourselves that night, but it's just that 5%. You know, it's like, okay, yeah, this is great, enjoy this, but you know there'll be a time in 2 weeks that once again you'll have a decision to make. So you only get really 2 weeks off from no running or deconditioning, and then you're back into a program. So it's nearly 50 weeks of the year you're a professional athlete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess the 2012 was probably the hurt from that might have also spurred that on. That's the way that it kind of...
2012 was our best year in terms of the footy we played. Some of the games we totally dominated teams. And it was the only year, I think, where we were favourites going into the grand final because of the form that we had. Sydney would have been underdogs. But, you know, it just... moments in the game. Sydney certainly took theirs. We're in a really handy position, but Sydney just took their moments late. And that hurt. That was probably the most disappointed I've ever felt in football in terms of losing and just sitting there and watching the opposition players get up on the dice and carry on a little bit. But I remember we came back into the rooms and the hurt that we had was put into perspective from a lady had just lost her life in Collingwood around here somewhere. And he goes, you know, imagine the hurt you're feeling, imagine the hurt that her family feeling. So that moment on, we're like, yeah, that puts it into perspective. And it was just the right moment to touch on. But that certainly drove the next year in 13.
Yeah. And then I guess 13 was a little different celebration-wise for you as well. Well, not really if you'd had the fever the first premiership. Yeah. And then was there a son?
That was 15. But 13, we had this great rivalry with Geelong and beat them 2008. So from 2008 grand final, we hadn't played them in a final up until 2013 prelim. They'd beaten us 11, 12 games in a row. Some really close games, but we were always on the other end of it. So to come in at three-quarter time, 21 or 22 points down, where you could imagine the thoughts going through your head. I was like, oh no, if we lose this game, we've lost the grand final last year. We will be a team that it will be hard to come back mentally from this. And the fourth quarter just fell our way. You know, some big moments and some big goals and momentum and all that sort of stuff, which meant that we eventually won that game. And the grand final was great. But I've never felt more relief in my footballing career than the relief after 2013 prelim. Yeah. After what had gone on, the media around it, the position we're in at three-quarter time, it was pure elation.
And do you think that's what led you into the grand final with almost a state of calmness? Because you've done that, you'd won 2008, in comparison to Freo that was building up to something.
Yeah. And funnily enough, like all the media around that time was around how could Hawthorn possibly deal with Fremantle's pressure? And we're like, this is good. We're happy to sit back and let them take all the credit and all the pressure. But I think in terms of a player's mentality, prelim finals are always hard because of what you might miss out on. But once you get into that grand final space, you enjoy the week, you enjoy the game for what it is. But we felt really comfortable in that environment. Really comfortable. We'd been there the year before. Fremantle had never been there. I think it was a relatively hot day. You know, the Fremantle crowd were up and about, which was good. But in the back of your mind, you still understand that it's a stage that the opposition have never been in, and to really challenge.
How do you reflect on, especially those 3 years? Like, I imagine during it, you're probably in quite a bubble.
Yeah.
And then as you've got older, you've had kids, you're reflecting on it differently. How do you think back on that time?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think going through that, and maybe from the outside, you can really bask in the glory, and it's your emotions are probably a lot higher than what they are as a player. I think as a player, because you're in it and it's high stress, and you know, if like we were lucky enough to win, it's just a relief. It's a weird thing to try and explain. I heard Scotty Scheffler speak about golf and the way that he approaches tournaments and after winning the British Masters, and he's exactly right. Like it's great to win, but it doesn't really fulfill you. Like, I mean, having children fulfill you, having, getting married, like all that stuff fulfills you. Whereas winning, it's just, it's one of those things where you're like, okay, we've won, on to the next thing. Okay, we've won a game, okay, on to the next thing. We've lost a game, okay, on to the next game. So footy just teaches you to be able to reflect quickly, but then you've just got to move on. And I think the grand finals were really like that. Like, you win the grand final, the next day you're presented to the fans. That afternoon you get to have a beer with family and staff. On Monday you're in Tasmania presenting to the fans. On Tuesday you're in the club doing personal reviews. Wednesday club reviews. Thursday you finally get a day off. So it's like, it's a bit manic for that period of time. But 13 I will always remember it because we lost 12. 14 I would always remember it because unfortunately one of my good mates, the buddy, had deflected to Sydney and we beat Sydney and they beat us in 2012.
Sure, there was a few words on that day.
Yeah. Well, we played Sydney prior to the grand final, and Bud could have dominated. I think he kicked 2 goals, 6. Could have dominated us. And after that game, it was very clear that the coaching staff didn't want that to happen again. So we had to come out and be really physical against him, which is not natural, right? Like, he's your good mate, but you just knew what was at stake.
Yeah.
So 14 was all about that. And then 15 was really special because as successful as Hawthorn had been, no team had won 3 in a row. So that was on the cards. So to be able to sit at the table and feel comfortable at the table with the likes of Brereton and Dunstall and Ayres and Platten and those guys is quite humbling.
In respect to your footy career, how do you want to be remembered?
It's interesting. I think I was a product of our environment. Like, if I reflect on it, would I have liked to have played midfield my whole career? Yeah, absolutely. I think I was a genuine midfielder, inside midfielder that developed a little bit of an outside game, but I would have loved to have played 14 years as a midfielder. But the system didn't need that, or didn't. So I played half-back, I played wing, I played half-forward, I played midfield, I played a defensive forward because I could adapt. And a lot of our players, like, would Luke Hodge have wanted to play midfield all his career? Yeah, he could have, but he played half-back because that's what the team wanted. So I don't think, in terms of external recognition, a lot of people look at individual accolades, but that didn't really give a true depiction on maybe the value that the team placed on individuals within the club. So, I think if I was looking back on it, the public see you for about, let's say, play 300 games, which I was lucky to do. They see you for about 600 hours. An AFL career over 15 years, you're probably doing 7,500 hours, training and all that sort of stuff. So I think what my teammates would say is, competitive, reliable, showed great leadership and loyal. And I think that would be how you would be happy to be remembered.
How do you pass that on to your kids?
Yeah, I think you get moments every day to either educate or so it's tough, and I think the thing that I'm really proud about at the moment, my kids are relatively young, is they greet people, they say how are you, they're really polite. Freddie's old enough to now shake hands and look people in the eye. So little things like that. I love when you go to a park and I see Freddie or Ollie and Huey caring for a younger kid, and I think that's just beautiful moments that you really, really enjoy. So that's great. And when you watch them play sport, it's funny when you're exposed to sporting parents. It's an interesting field, and I think I'm really lucky because I've seen the end of it. And how it is professionally, and it's great. Don't get me wrong, but there's so much more to life than to be a professional athlete. So if it doesn't work out, life's going to be okay. There's other occupations and opportunities, but to see how parents react at football and basketball games, I never want to be that to my child or children. So I love going to watch them. I think I'm really fortunate to be in a position to be able to go and watch them. you just hope that they enjoy what they do.
Yeah. It's
How do you go with that?
well, our eldest is only 5.
Yeah.
We got a taste of it at a sports carnival at the end of last year, where I got butterflies that I haven't had for a long time.
Yeah.
And it was interesting watching other parents, because I was thinking I don't want to be that parent, but internally I was really competitive.
Right? Yeah.
I was really competitive.
Yeah.
She ran and she did well and she enjoyed it and she came second, and the father of the person that came first really revved up their kid. I thought, wow, this is actually, I'm in it now.
Yeah.
And I didn't overdo it. And I'm glad.
But you're in it because he was in it.
Yeah. So now she's waking up at 6 a.m. and she's running.
Yeah. She's on the treadmill every day.
Yeah.
But you know, I think it's a fine balance. And you know, I've listened to a lot of stuff and podcasts about it, and a lot of people say when your child finishes a game and the most important time is in the car, and you don't have to ask questions.
Yeah.
You just say, I loved watching you play today. And then if they want to talk about the game, they can. If they don't, they don't, right? Just let that space evolve.
It's interesting.
And my dad was like that. My mum was like that. We never really spoke about performance. Just spoke about, it was great to see you out there. And I was competitive anyway, so maybe it was relatively easy to do. But yeah, it's a really important time, I think, in a kid's development. If they choose to play sport, to be really encouraging, not necessarily be their coach.
Well, it's like, we'll talk about being proud of ourselves in a bit, but I was just thinking, as you said, your mum and your dad, how do they reflect on, like, I'm just imagining you being a father to someone who's done pretty well at footy. It must be a special feeling for them.
Yeah, they are. And I think my dad's a little bit like me. Like he's pretty reserved. Like he doesn't show any emotion, if any at all. I'm not really an emotional person, which my wife hates. But we just tend to move on from things. So, like, I think they would have, you know, living in a small country town, they would have had numerous conversations around, you know, when I was playing, did you see Jordan on the weekend? So I think those little conversations would make parents proud. They're not really, mum maybe more so than dad, to say that, you know, what you're doing, we're really proud of you. I just knew that anyway. They didn't have to tell me that. So, I mean, they weren't proud when I got suspended or got fined or that wasn't a proud moment. But yeah, a lot of it, I think, is just being, and maybe it was shown early on. Like my dad and mum, being a country kid, drove me around everywhere for basketball and football. So I think that shows a level of satisfaction and being proud of your child if you're still happy to drive them around as a young kid.
Yeah.
But it was never really a conversation that we had openly.
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey for you, and the amazing part of a professional athlete's life is that your career ends so young, really.
Yeah.
And you're thrust into this new world of business.
Yeah. And
you've probably got other peers that have had 10, 15 years in business.
Yeah.
That must be quite daunting as well. Was that?
That's the challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the challenge, and it'll never be. That challenge will always be there because football and professional sport is requiring more hours and more hours. Yeah. So you know, you could be a smart kid who goes into professional sport, as you say, do a degree, do an MBA, you know, work one day a week at a firm somewhere, and but you're coming out against the same sort of person who has had 15 years experience in that industry, and it's tough. So that's why there are transferable skills that person does not get. You know, you meet influential people, you may be able to talk to people better than this person. So there are transferable skills that you really need to lean on. And certainly once you're in AFL land, you need to network as much as you possibly can. Because if you don't do that, you are in even a worse position leaving the game. So that's tough. I still think the balance is out of whack. I still think, you know, you can train a little bit less and get more exposure to sort of real work life experiences to better prepare you for after the game.
I think the other thing from an outsider looking in as well is a lot of professional athletes, they're almost being drained of their personality.
Yeah.
And so I'd be amazed to see how they come out and realise they can actually be themselves, because you're being looked at social media, as you mentioned. Everyone's telling you what you can't do. And there's not much personality now.
Yeah.
It's a real shame.
Yeah, it is. And I think that is, not being exposed to the real world. And, that is, how can you not be exposed to the real world? But I think the real world happens between 9 and 5, right? Like at work. Yeah. So when you're mixing with different demographics, you're mixing with people from all walks of life, whether they're a CEO or a cleaner, whatever it might be, you just get exposed to more people. That's just the nature. I mean, a footballer goes to training, you're around the same environment, you go home, and then you go to the game, you drive underneath, you park, you go out and play. And so it's really sort of a sheltered life.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what the answer is to getting more exposure. It seemed like the 90s were probably the perfect balance, right? You still had to go out and work, you still had to forge a career, but you still provided a pretty good spectacle.
Yeah, and pre-social media, like that just seems to be the real crux of it as well.
Yeah, and unfortunately that's not going away.
No.
And I think I'm really lucky at the moment that my children are too young for that. But there will be a point in time where, and hopefully the big tech companies get their act together and they they don't allow kids to use social media until sort of 18 years of age. When my boys are coming through, but it's a real challenge, I would imagine, for parents.
Oh, yeah, I'm scared.
Yeah.
I'm scared about that. The that Melbourne period where you were playing there, did you get the same feeling that you had in the early days of Hawthorn in terms of it being built up to the success that it ended up having? Was there a bit of that feeling there?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we played Melbourne in 2016. And I remember it was just one of those games that it had been built up for them as the biggest game of their year, and they came out really physical. I thought, that's interesting. So when my decision came, I was like, I feel like this is an up and coming side. They've got a lot of great young kids coming through, some older guys who are well established, and you just saw this want and wide eyed for information, and they wanted to be successful, but they didn't necessarily know how to do it. So that was a point where I really, making my decision, I wanted to be at a club like that. I didn't want to go to a club who was 10 years away. I wanted to sort of try and get one for myself. It didn't end up being that way, but hopefully help set up a club in terms of training habits and the way to play and education to then one day be successful. It turned out it was in a period of uncertainty. Did you go to the grand final?
I did.
You did, yeah.
I did, because I'm a Dogs fan.
Yeah. Oh, right. And how lucky are you?
Well, I was until 3/4 time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
To then raise the Premiership Cup like they did in really uncertain circumstances, was a pretty special moment. To have some really, really small involvement and still obviously know the players, it was a proud moment.
Yeah, and I guess you've probably almost a deterioration from there as well. It's like, how do clubs continue that success when you reach the pinnacle and it's like, what's next?
It's hard, isn't it? Yeah. And we could spend an hour on this about the learnings that I had in my career, and you don't realise how, and probably in business as well, how hard life is when you are at the top to then stay there and to remain competitive and to remain hungry and to remain locked into the process. That's the most difficult thing, because once the build-up's great, because you sort of get little sort of recognition points along the way, like, okay, we're going okay, we're doing okay, wow, we're here. How do you then maintain that level of consistency and competitiveness? And it's hard. The other thing that's really hard is how do you keep a group that prioritizes the team over themselves? And that is an even bigger balance and a more difficult thing to achieve. And I think if we're completely honest, I think Melbourne have fallen into that more than what Hawthorn did. Hawthorn, I don't think, fell into it at all. Then rather, okay, what's best for the team? Do I take less money? Do I play in a position where I don't necessarily get external recognition? Do we, really sort of hone in on the things that matter. So all those little things mean that you just slowly slip down the ladder.
Is that what made Alistair Clarkson so good?
Yeah. You knew where you stood. And it was him. It was Luke Hodges as the captain, the most selfless person that I've ever come across in football. So your leaders really dictate what the rest of the group value.
Yeah.
But it certainly came from Clarko initially. Yeah.
Coming from Darwin, it would be remiss of me not to mention Cyril. And what was it like being in the front row seat of seeing someone so magical?
Yeah, I remember his first year. We go pre-season, and then we used to have a massive tackling session the day. So we do it in the morning, and we're off that afternoon for 2 weeks, Christmas. So we used to get smashed by this guy called Johnny Donahue for like an hour. It was brutal. And I remember this seems silly now, but I remember looking over and go, and Cyril was like worked to the bone. He's been in the club for 2 months, and he sort of gave up. I'm like, yeah, I don't reckon he's going to make it. Like I just think it might be a little bit too hard for him. But he became one of the most competitive. He probably was competitive, but he would work hard. And I think the overarching thing with that particular group is when we trained hard, competitive. We never sort of took the easy route. And Cyril was like that. He was an ultra competitive trainer. So he had an unbelievable level of talent, but he worked hard and would buy into the little things that you need to buy into be a professional athlete for as long as he did. But he was the most freakish talent that I ever saw come through. Yeah. Some of the stuff that he did, and we clearly got to see him a lot more than what you guys got to see him. So he would do it on a daily basis. A real cheeky little.
Yeah.
There was this period of time where Clarko would come in and work out, and he'd write up on the whiteboard, his workout, just so he'd get the fitness staff to write up his workout. And for sort of 3 days, he'd be over at the gym working out, and he'd come over and look at the board, and it'd be all rubbed off. And like, who's doing that? Like, no one knew who was doing it. And then they one day set up a camera. So anyway, he writes it up, goes out, and you see Cyril's little head pop around the corner. He's like looking around, he like rubs it off, and then like ducks off. So we're in a team meeting, like, there's been some stuff happen around the club, and I've been working out. My workout's been sort of getting rubbed off, and we didn't know at the time who it was. He goes, I just want to play some footage. And sure enough, Cyril ducks around the corner and rubs it off, and we all erupt.
Yeah.
It was but that was sort of the quirky nature in which he carried himself.
Yeah,
Funny little bugger.
It's like talking about those team meetings, and I never achieved the success I would love to have in rugby, but sitting in the sheds after a game and having a beer with mates after you've just gone into combat, essentially, what we would consider combat for rugby, and winning a grand final, those sort of feelings that I had, I know that I'll never get that particular feeling ever again.
Yeah.
Is that something that you think about a bit? Because I know I do as just an amateur, and I just will never get that feeling other than, I don't know, a couple of beers or a run and with some mates and a beers, but you don't get that feeling again.
Yeah. No, I think that's probably why people struggle. I haven't needed it. I think the hardest thing is to sort of separate yourself from being a player to then just being an everyday person. And that's come relatively easy for me. It doesn't mean that I'm not competitive. Like I still play basketball on a Monday night, and I go to the game thinking I just want to have a sweat and maybe jack up a 3 or 2, and then something triggers. The opposition sort of poke you a little bit. Like, okay, now it's on.
Yeah.
So that competitive nature never leaves.
Yeah.
But you're right. I think I miss the clubroom banter. I miss probably the 5 or 10 minutes after a game when you're completely exhausted. You enjoy the win. You talk about it. That stuff you sort of miss a little bit. But in terms of the pure elation after a grand final win, no, I sort of you just move on. Yeah.
In Australia, we tall poppy syndrome's a serious thing, and I don't think that we get to reflect and talk about how proud we are of ourselves. And we're trying really hard to instill that in our daughters.
Yeah.
And I love hearing them talk to me about how proud they are of the colouring in they did. It was something really, really small for me, but massive for them. Going to what you've achieved personally and professionally, what are you most proud of? 1, 2 things. What comes to mind?
It's funny you say that. So Freddie's 10, twins are 8. They've just finished 27 days of a gratitude journal. And it was actually quite interesting just letting them sit down and write what they enjoyed about the day. And I think what that shows you is you've got to really appreciate the little things. So I think what I've achieved in football is great. It's big picture sort of stuff. But I think the thing that I like about my life is I've got this ability to really lock into the moment. So this morning you wake up, you make a coffee, you sit down with my youngest boy Bobby and make a puzzle. I think that gives me so much satisfaction, and it's the tangible things that I really enjoy now. And I think probably one of the things that I could sort of sit back and be proud of is just to be a really good role model for my kids. And once you have children, your perspective on life changes, right? Like you could be financially set up, you could be, you could walk into the office and be the CEO and everyone kisses your ass. But at the end of the day, if your kids don't want to be around you and they don't respect you, I think all that is irrelevant. So I think that's the thing that I really enjoy about my life at the moment. I've got a beautiful wife. We're happy at the moment, so that's always nice. So there, I think that would be probably the things that I would point to, and treating people with respect, is a thing that I'm always conscious about. No matter who they are.
Gratitude journal for the 8 and the twins and the 10-year-old.
Yeah.
What were some of the things that they wrote down?
Well, just like. Really little things. Lucy took them to Anglesey, to a Big 4 in Anglesey, and thanking Lucy for driving them down there, and being down there and thanking Lucy for taking them out for dinner, and just little things like that, and to get them a footy pack. Thank you for the footy pack. Just to be able to recognise what had happened throughout the day was important.
Well, you don't really get that as a parent. I know my wife does definitely struggle with that because there's no end goal. Like you don't get any achievements. You don't get any recognition for being a parent. And to have at least maybe we'll bring in the gratitude journal as well. For our 5-year-old.
I mean, it was a fight the first 2 or 3 days, but then when you reward them with the footy pack at the end, they've got to have something to be rewarded with. They bought into it.
We all do. We all need reward.
Absolutely. So that's I think when you have children, it's important to sort of watch and observe and feel proud by the way they carry themselves.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
I really enjoyed it. As I said, on tour, you're like, I'll do that. Let's do it. So thanks, mate. I'd really appreciate it.
Enjoy the game on Saturday.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening and being a part of our community at That Backyard Property Podcast. We would love it if you could like, comment, or even share with a family member or a friend that might get something useful from today's episode. We can't wait to see you again next Tuesday.